我哋今次做嘅7日喺度做呢個活動啦。咁佢想講下嘅 experience 啊，有咩人哋經歷過啊，佢個 concept 係點樣啊？咁由 Reggie Black，hey man,
My turn?
Yeah,
okay, awesome.
Yeah, we'll look good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, thank you all for coming out. You can't leave yet.
You cannot leave.
So my name is Reggie Black. I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I've spent the past 4 years living in Asia. I used to live in Bangkok for 4 years with my wife and son. And I spent a lot of time traveling this part of the world. Hong Kong is one of my favorites of the cities on this side. I spent a lot of time in Tokyo, Seoul. I just had an exhibition in Tokyo back in August. But I'm really excited to be here in this space tonight for a few reasons. When I came, my last trip to Hong Kong was April in Art Basel. And before I came, a really good mentor of mine was like, hey man, like you should reach out and see if you can find some people there to work with. And I didn't think that printmaking existed here in Hong Kong. And so I like literally went on Google and Googled like screen printing companies or printmaking shops, and these guys came up as the top in the city. Thank Google and thank you. So these guys came up at the top. So I sent an email very hesitant. It's like, oh man, they're not gonna get back to me. But they emailed me back and said, man, it would be great if you came into the studio and we talked and figure out a way to try to create a collaboration. And I think over the past couple months, it's just been a lot of ideas. Both of us have been really busy with our schedules. And so they said, oh man, just come over in November. So I recently just moved back to the US. My son just started college, so my wife and I and the whole family, we just moved back. But they said, come in November, so I came back to Asia, which I really love, and I'm really excited to be here. The idea of this project, we wanted to create an experience that represented of who we both were as artists and designers. Like the big question was, how can we collaborate and create something that doesn't offend each other? Like how can we create a body of work that brings out the best of who we both are, individually as artists and collectively as artists. And so the printmaking process, what we wanted to do with each piece of work was to make sure that we were both represented in it. I've always been inspired by the printmaking process, but I've never had an opportunity to experience, woodcut, lithograph, etching, those various elements. So when we got together, that's what I wanted to explore, and I think MPC was very interested in the excitement of abstract creativity. So we wanted to make sure that we both represented ourselves, but also figured out a way to make something new. I was thinking to myself on the train earlier, I think very early this morning, it's very often that you find a body of work that you have the different eras of art forms kind of in the same space. Printmaking, all the printmaking techniques with this is a form of like very modern art versus my style. Sorry, my style is a bit more contemporary and pushing the envelope a bit more. So to me, it's kind of a category of its own. You have this very eclectic combination that works well together because we both decided that we would be ourselves and come together. So I'll just walk through each piece and give you an idea of the process, because for us, I think the process was very important. What I didn't know coming into this entire experience, and I think like we both really understood, I didn't understand how many hours it took to create printmaking because I work really fast, because I work a lot with emotion and on the fly. I didn't think that the file formatting, the art preparation, all of those things were like really important, but they are. And to be honest, I think that that's what we really spent a lot of time working on, was the file formatting, the art creation, the preparation, the choosing the paper, the ink. Like I've learned so much just being in this space. It's like it's like school and creativity, because that's the important part. That's the history of things. That's the layers of the artwork. And I didn't know that. I thought that we were going to come in, set a few things, print like 1,000 pieces, and then we'll be done. Like I had no idea that an etching copper bath took 2 hours, or laying the glue for the marbling takes overnight. Like I had no idea that everything was about patience and determination. And working with MPC, like I'm just really inspired by the dedication to this craft, because it doesn't, I don't think it exists much. It exists in the world, but there are not many people. I think people like you and I that are in this room really care about it. That's why we're here. But as a general sense, we're in a world of digital creation, which is cool, but I think there needs to be some respect and homage paid to traditional printmaking and traditional styles of technique. I'll start here. I'll just go down the line. So yes should be more. Was actually, how did this one happen? We were working on a piece, and I said this quote, and Dave said, "Yes, hold that quote. We have to use that somewhere." And then it lived on this. So the process of this one is marbling. The first layer behind is the marbling technique. And this was my first time experimenting with it. We were joking earlier about me wearing all black. So here's the thing, I wear all black except white shoes sometimes.
And white teeth.
White shoes. But I'm in love with color. I was just telling someone else here, one of my favorite parts of Hong Kong is the neon lights. Like I can just walk around and look at the neon lights all night. But I'm in love with color, and so what we wanted to do with this piece was to make sure that the printmaking process, the technique of marbling, which is a very traditional style, was clashed and juxtaposed against this very bold and raw, honest, hand typography. I'm not a trained artist, I'm self-taught, which allows me to use that as my superpower, because I don't know the rules, so I can break the rules and do whatever I want with them. I think a lot of times when we go to traditional art schools, which is great, I think sometimes we're taught a certain way, and then it's very hard for us to kind of find our own way into something else. So because I don't know any rules, I use everything wrong. I don't use sumi brushes properly. I don't use spray paint properly. I probably cannot do a mural. I don't understand can control, but it's a body of work. My style has become a life form of its own, which I use that as my superpower. So that's what we wanted to do here. We wanted to make sure that MPC and Reggie Black was in the work together. So the color choices is just me being in love with Hong Kong, trying to mimic a lot of the colors that I see walking around the city, which hence the title of the exhibition, Look Up, A Vertical Introspection. It's really me being inspired by Hong Kong. Every time I come here, except this time I walked around. Every day I was here, all day, every day we were here. So I didn't see anything else from MPC this time. But that's the story of this one. We wanted to make sure that both people live, but it was like a dance of the marbling layer was first, and then there's these very bold strokes of spray paint writing that we use, the very interesting marbling spray paint from the US. So that's that one. One of my favorite. What somebody asked me my favorite, I'll probably tell you, but I think they're all my favorite. So we'll move to the next one. What if was a lead that MPC really took the role on. I think this was one of the pieces that I didn't really know. You gotta leave when we stop.
No.
Sure. We can wait, man. We can wait. So what if was a piece that MPC really took the lead on. This process is a combination of four different etchings going on at once. And what I really enjoyed about their lead on this one was that they brought something out of me that I didn't really see. Normally I don't write very slanted because a lot of people look at my work. Hey, have a seat, man. It's gonna be a while. I got a few more to go through, man. Get comfortable. It's gonna be a while. I want to make sure you know everything that's in here. And you have to know the amount of work that went into these pieces. No, I'm just joking with you. So MPC, they really pushed this one, and I really like how they allow the gradient. So the first thing I think we were talking about where Bambi was a really big fan of like embossing things, like how do we print without like actually using ink, like what can we create when we start to make shadows. So all these like copper plates, some of them have a little ink on it, some of them don't, some of them are kind of like gradient, and then we allow that to we allow that to just live. And then for this whole show, I think the big question for us was what if we got together and created something that most people didn't see, like what would that look like? How can we get two completely different art forms together to create something? Like what would that look like? So that was the whole what if question that we wanted to like ask ourselves and explore these different mediums. So we'll go to Nothing is Proper. I think the title kind of explains itself. It's a Bambi titled artwork. He titled this one, and I think my favorite component of it is the silver woodcut. I do a lot of abstract work. If you spend your time looking through this piece, you can find stuff all day that you may or may not like. A lot of abstract work is overbearing, but sometimes I do like to choke people with art, for lack of better terms, just because I think there's something in here. If you might not like everything in it, you'll find an element of some sort that you really appreciate. So this is mixed media. There's sumi ink, there's acrylic, there's dye, I use a lot of like acrylic washes. So a lot of the washes here are very like rinsed with water and like really deep. Most of the blue is the same, but the tone change and the way that I like played with the color is different. Yeah, I think that's that for that one. There's sumi ink brushes here. I do like just to point out one interesting part about the whole body of work. All of the work is printed on 600 gram weight paper, and it's 100% handmade, 100% cotton handmade, and it's from India. And I really like it because I think it gave the texture of everything. Like some artworks some ink or some paint on artworks will kind of stay on top. I love when the artwork is the paper absorbs the artwork. So that's how you can get the textures, and you can see certain elements are really shiny, and then certain elements are really matte, certain elements are really like dense. So that's just kind of another, I think as printmakers, in my role as a designer, on the other side of the hat that I also wear, I relate more to MPC with that, and I learn more because they really honed in the importance of using proper ink and using the proper paper to make sure that you get like a specific result. So that's why things look very rich. That's why things look very black and bold. And Dave was very what's the word I'm looking for? Strong about making sure that everything looked black and bold, because that's the beauty of the paperwork. I mean, the beauty of the paper and the texture that you see. I think I voted, and I think this is my favorite piece, and I'll tell you why. I had no idea what woodcut art was when I first came here. And when MPC picked me up, Dave was like, yeah, we're gonna do some woodcut, and you have like 2 experts here with you that like do woodcut. They're like phenomenal. And I was like, man, like it sounds cool, but I had no idea the beautiful results that it would produce at Bambi and Guagua. I think this is phenomenal because it was actually created on the wood itself. So these strokes and these marks are me using a sumi brush and sumi ink to produce directly on the wood. And then over time, I think just over like the course of maybe 2 days, a day or so, when I looked at the actual wood plate, like everything that was on the brush, the cuts and everything here are still here. Like I had no idea that you can carve wood and get these types of results. I had no idea. I mean, everything, the way that this was created is the exact way that I made it when I was experimenting with the sumi brush. And I think it's bold, and like I called it spaces because it's like Hong Kong, like it's together, but it's not. There's the walls, there's the layering, I think someone's at the door. There's the walls, there's the layering. There's the walls, there's the layering, there's all the elements that go into, and this is once again another huge dance between the two techniques, the woodcut and my actual style being bold and very abstract. And like I said, I had no idea that like woodcut could be this like rich and like how you can access all the marks and the details that go into woodcut. Everything is right now. We got to this one. This is the one that really broke the ice, and I think that this is the one that took the most like thought and strategic like planning, because I think this was the one that we were very delicate with each other's styles, right? I think so.
Yeah.
We were trying to make sure that no one offended each other. Like, how do we get together and make something and make a body of work, but without feeling like one piece of artistic style is more important than the other. So when we got the technical proper plating, and this behind is a etching plate, and then we have the woodcut, and then on top of that is the original hand typography. I think that this is a perfect balance of technical and abstract, but it was the one that broke the ice. So I think from here we were able to say, okay, do we reduce or do we go deeper? So this is how you got to the marbling. And then this, the big black woodcut, is how you actually got to the other etching and woodcut pieces. Try again. Once again, my like experimenting with color separation and marbling. This was a real big. I think this is one of my favorites because I like the use of color, but I also like how simple. In neon, the neon once again being inspired by the lights, like I thought that it was really important to make sure that the neon resembled against the very bold abstract typography, and that was really important for the work, because marbling is definitely something that like can't live on its own, but clashing it against something, it's very beautiful in the background. So yeah, I think. This was a week. I think I really want to thank NPC for inviting me, because I think there was something special about them saying we're going to stop our schedule and we're going to do like this artist residency collaboration idea. So all this work is very spontaneous, and for me, I think that it's really cool that the show is here because everything was produced here. Like, we spent 12, 14-hour days. I was like jet lagged all week. I like slept on the beanbag. Slept on the floor a couple times. I think that I think it's special that the show is here, and I like that we work with limitation. Like I said, I had no idea of what printmaking, the detail, the intricacies of printmaking. I had no idea what went into acid baths when you're creating etching, or what went into woodcut. So my thought was like, oh, we can come here, and the way that I work, we'll knock out 20 pieces. And Dave was like, nah, man. We'll get like 5 or 6, but I really like that we created the limitation of saying, how do we create something intentional? Like, what's the goal for this? Are we trying to make a bunch of work that just say that we did 2 different things together, or do we want to create a strong collection of work that represents us both? And I think that that's what we really like. I'm very proud of the work, and I'm happy for the experience. And thank you guys for listening to me ramble about this beautiful work. If you have any questions or thoughts, or you gave me some really good feedback, sir. I didn't catch your name, but I really appreciate it.
My name is Ho Chang.
Ho Chang.
Benny.
Benny. Yeah, you did say it. Yeah. Can I share your feedback?
Yes.
David said yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So what I like about art is that art is super subjective, and I think you're either on 2 sides of the spectrum. You really like something, or you don't like anything at all. And what Benny said was this was his least favorite, and I really enjoyed him saying that, because I understand why. Like, sometimes being busy is too much for some people, But what I also liked was that he said this was his favorite, because simple sometimes represents what you like personally. But I think hearing him say the last part was the most like resonating and touching part. He said what's powerful about the work is that it was created spontaneously. And that's something that I'm gonna take with me, because in my art practice in general, I work really fast. And I think sometimes art, when you start to think about art too much, it becomes more strategic, and then it's no longer art. Like if you're playing with acrylic and you're creating these beautiful like abstract marks, or you're creating these beautiful like acrylic washes, if you're trying to figure out which way the water's gonna move or how you're gonna move your wrist, you're not creating anymore. You're actually just trying to like follow a template. But there are, in some cases in the design world, when the things have to be on the grid and things have to be proper, which is another setting, which is another chance for you to really show another side of your skill set of what you can do. So there's two things, but for us to come here in 5 days and, I mean, get several layers, multiple layers on this work, like I think that's the cool part for me, to have like the residency here and then to have the show here, but then also like all of this be on the fly. I think we sent a lot of ideas back and forth, and there are some elements that resemble the works that are shown tonight, but for the most part, there was a lot of like understanding and compromise. Like it was a perfect. It almost felt like we worked together before. I think because it wasn't a disrespect of each other trying to like step on each other's toes or get in each other's way, and I think that that's what was special. So I really appreciate it. Just wanted to share that. Any more questions? Well, all set. Got it.
Say with me.
Got it.
Okay.
Say with me.
Me.
Okay.
So huh?
All set.
All set and get noodles.
That noodles, yeah.
I've been picking up on words every now and then. Oh, that was another cool part. Like I think for the whole week, there was like 4 different languages going on, and everybody was bouncing back and forth. And there were moments when Dave would like talk to me in Mandarin, and I'm like, dude, like I don't know what you're talking about, because everything was flying back and forth. And you would think you were still talking to somebody, like Bambi was probably like, while I was on the phone talking Taiwanese, and then somebody else was talking. It was more of a cultural experience, right? I think like it was really it was cool to see how like no matter where you come from, like creativity and art can like unite us from various parts of the world. I even had them listening to like rap and all sorts of like cool rap stuff, and then we were listening to Coldplay, and then we shared stories of Bambi and I shared stories about our love for Coldplay. So I think like art is that thing that connects us all no matter where we're from, and to see this happen, already have an idea of what I think we should do next, but I guess we have to talk about it first. But just to see the instrument of unity, which is art, to create this is really cool.